Share. Okay. Hello there. This is the Real Guardian, and this is the remainder of What if Deku was a driver from Xenoblade 2 to add 2. Okay, to pick up where we left off, Izuku then wakes up in a hospital bed with a nurse smiling at him and checking his IV. Then talks to him. So, you're awake. That's good, young man. I'll go get your parents. Izuku then sits up a bit and grumbles that he's really sore everywhere. And Pyra chimes in, basically says it's because you awakened my power and you're just not used to it yet. So you're going to be sore for a couple days, okay? Izuku nods and saying thank you to her for giving him power. Pyra says you're quite welcome, Izuku. Izuku, as he finishes cutting the link, the door opens to see his parents, and a man as they walk in, as they walk in to the room, with Izuku saying hi to his parents. They both just run up to him and hug him, saying that they were so worried about him. But when he gets home, he's going to kind of be grounded for a bit, but they're proud of him for standing up and protecting someone weaker than him. Izuku just nods, and then the man walks up to him. This is when Izuku notices his goggles, and before he could even speak, says, "Oh, you're the eraser hero, Eraserhead." Now, this actually does shock Zao, especially because he's thinking, okay, how does he know that? I don't like being in the public eye at all, as much as possible, since it interferes with my work. And second, usually a kid this young should know right off the back. It's kind of impressive that he does know that. So then he asks Izuku, so how do you know who I am? Izuku then responds saying, well, the goggles were a dead giveaway, to be honest, and I know it was you from one of my hero books I've written it. I think you're in the first one I ever written. I'm not too sure anymore. But I can't tell you what I know about the information on you. Is that you're a hero that does not do things in the public eye. You also can erase someone's quirk by looking at them, and the side effect of this power is dry eye. Erase, if I'm not mistaken, sorry. Shota is again shocked on how smart he is. He then smiles to himself, thinking, yeah, he needs to properly train this kid because his quirk is smart, and if he's this, his quirk is strong, and if he's this smart, he could not only give All Might a run for money, but most heroes a run for their money. So Shota then looked at Izuku and just blatantly asked, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" That's when Izuku smiled and said he wanted to be a hero like you, All Might, and All Might idea. Shota then chuckles as loud as he can, kind of freaking everyone out. He then says, okay, Izuku, how about this? That quirk of yours is strong, but without proper training, it's going to be hard to control one day. And to be a hero later on. So I see a lot of potential in you. So I have an offer. If your parents are willing to accept it, and he looks at both Inko and Hasashi, they also give him a puzzled look since he's looking at them. He then tells them that he would like to train Izuku and take him under his wing. After all, I think it would be in this kid's best interest to do so. Just then, both Izuku and Inko and Hasashi look at each other, then Izuku, and when they see that Izuku is literally just smiling pure joy at this idea, they both nod and agree to it, saying that they're okay with it. Then Shota tells them as soon as he's out, they will discuss the best time to do the training and finalizing some other things. They then give a nod to Shota. He then gets up and gives them their number, and before he could get out the door, Izuku says, "Hey, when I get out and we start training, I want to get your autograph, Mr. Eraser." Shota then turns to him saying, okay, but you gotta call me Aizawa Sensei next time we meet. And as he leaves, he honestly kind of was happy when he heard him say, yes, Aizawa Sensei. It did cause him to smile. And it made him think to himself, well, I think this kid is amazing, has great potential, and will be a great hero. Even if he's like All Might in some aspects of that. Okay. One second. Okay. Now we cut to about a day later, and Izuku, in the meantime, has been talking to Pyra and getting to know more about her and Blades. And as he gets stronger, he will get things called core crystals, as she explains, that will grant him more blades to be used that are not the Aegis's. and that they can use the space they talk in as a training space. And it works a lot like most training mental spaces. Whatever you do in there, you actually can do in real. You'll transfer over to real time in real life. So, yeah, that's basically what that does. And that he summoned her out a couple times to feel how it feels to have her by his side, and summoning her so he understands it better. Now, now, during this time, he actually got a visit from Katsuki's mother, deeply apologizing about her daughter's behavior. And just then, Katsuki comes out from behind her, apologizing to apologizing to Izuku. Then Izuku told him it's okay. It was partially his fault since he then asked. So then he asked if everyone was okay, and they nodded yes. And he said, "Okay, that's good." He kind of went overboard when his quirk got activated. Katsuki mom then tells him that yeah, he shouldn't worry about it. They are completely fine. They just have some minor burns and cuts. But then she decides to do this. So she looks at Katsuki and smacks her on her head. Katsuki then just growls at her. But like all moms, that one death glare and you shut up. She then says he's going to leave them alone for a little while she talks on the phone. Now, as she's walking out, she whispers this in her daughter's ear: "The best chance to make up and maybe get Izuku's attention." This Katsuki blushes a little and gets mad, saying to her, "I don't need your help with that," with her mom tapping on their shoulders, then turning to her, mouthing the words, "Yes, you do," as she walks out. This caused Katsuki to get really mad, but she decides to let go. She then turns to Izuku, and then they start talking for the first time honestly with him, sincerely telling Izuku that she's sorry about all this. "I never should have bullied you or others. And to be honest, I'm insecure about my feelings, people, so I hide them by acting out. I'm truly sorry for any pain I've caused you over the past few months, so please will you forgive me?" Izuku, hearing this, was a little shocked on how honest and sincere she was actually being towards him. And then Pyra chirped in, saying that it's best to say yes, because the first path to happiness is forgiveness, Izuku. Izuku then clearing his throat, saying, "I'm going to forgive you, not fully just yet. It will take time, so how about we just restart over as friends now, not enemies?" With that, Katsuki blushed, saying, "Yeah, that's fine by me." After that, they talked for a while, and Katsuki finally admits that his quirk is actually pretty cool, and that she told his class about it, and they really want to see it. And Izuku nods, saying when he comes back, he'll show it off. But it'll be next week, since he's stuck in here for another day. This makes Katsuki happy to hear. Then her mom walks back in, saying it's time to go. She says goodbye and they walk out. With Katsuki's mom, as they're walking away out the door, asking how it went. With Katsuki actually saying it went pretty well, and she starts blushing pretty madly about that. And this causes Katsuki's mom to smile. Now, after one more day of rest, Izuku was let out of the hospital. He's told his mom and dad he had to show something other than his quirk when they got home. So now let's just cut the outside of the home. Izuku showed out he can control fire a bit and a bladed weapon. They then tell him that it's amazing and very cool. But then they asked what else they want to show him, since they knew about that a little bit because of the police, or because of the report and what Zaya told them while they were waiting. He then He then tells them, "I'll show you when we get inside." They nod their heads, and once they get in the living room, he says, "Okay, this is why I want to show." He then says Pyra, and this basically, normally blades are always by the driver's side, but I'm changing it to where, like, in his case, he can not have them by his side and have them by his side so he can summon them. And in this case, how he summons them is by saying their name. In this case, he says Pyra, and then Pyra appears right behind Izuku. Then he tells his parents, "Well, Mom and Dad, meet Pyra. She's my blade," causing both of their mouths to drop wide open. And once they get over it, they ask how this is possible. Then Izuku explains as part of his quirk. He calls it Driver, and that's also what it's been registered as. "It allows me to manifest a physical form of my blade. Her name is Pyra." After hearing this, Izuku's dad without realizing, said out loud in a whisper, "So your quirk lets you summon a beautiful hot woman. Why was that not my quirk?" This causes Inko to smack him on the head and give him a death glare with the happiest smile you've ever seen. "So I'm not enough for you," she says, causing him to say sorry over and over again as he's literally on the ground begging for forgiveness as Inko walks away and walks up to Pyra, saying hello to her. And it's also nice to meet her. And she was welcoming her to the family. She then reaches out her hand and Pyra shakes it, saying likewise. Now we cut to Shota. He's now sitting down with the other teachers in the lounge at UA when he gets a call that causes him to smile, which freaks the rest of them out. He then answers saying hello. As they go on with the conversation, he confirms that he'll start tomorrow and he'll say that he'll be right there at 10 a.m. Then he hangs up the phone, causing the rest of the teachers in the room to ask what was he smiling about and what was that phone call. He then just tells them he found a very interesting kid with a powerful quirk. And honestly, the fire he has could have surpassed Endeavor's, to be honest. So I'm going to train his. So I know I need to train his body first, and I'm probably going to do some hand-to-hand combat for him. And I'm probably going to get him involved since he owes me a favor for last time. This causes basically every teacher in the room to gasp in shock that Shota, of all people, given how lazy he is, would want to help train a person personally. This kid must be really special to do all that. Now, as we cut to the next day at 8 a.m., Izuku got up to see his mom sipping tea. He then asks, "Hey, Mom, you're not really cooking breakfast, so is it done?" She then smiles and says, "No, Pyra's cooking for us." And I'm beginning to like the idea of a daughter-in-law, she chuckled. Izuku did not get or understand the last part, but he walked in the kitchen to see Pyra making food. He walked up to her and saying so she can cook, and that's awesome, Pyra. She then pats Izuku on the head, saying thank you, Izuku. And yes, I can, but I had to use that thing you call the internet to get caught up on recipes and differences over the centuries before going back into the crystal to get a little bit of sleep last night. She then smiles to him, causing Izuku's face to turn red, and now Inko is sitting at the table and concedes the kitchen and is giggling. And she basically says, "Yeah, as I thought, I got a daughter-in-law." She then Pyre tells Izuku to go sit down and it will be done in a minute. As Izuku sits down, Ingo then tells him that Izawa will be by here soon in about 2 hours to train him. So after he should get ready for it. Then grins and nods happily. Then Pyre puts down breakfast and says, "I hope you both will enjoy it." Just then, Izuku and Inko take a bite, and they just go berserk, devouring everything in a couple of seconds, causing Pyra to freak out, asking if shit's that bad or something, with Izuku grabbing a nearby tea, downing it in like one gulp, saying, "No, it is the most delicious food I've ever tasted." With this, Pyra blushing, saying thank you, and Inko saying to herself, Izuku, because his looks, has already gotten popular with girls even at his age, and it's sadly I think why Katsuki was bullying him. In the sense she was trying to make him hers or notice her, whatever she was trying to do, and the other girls were too scared to try to console him because of her. But in her head, she's basically lost because there's no way in the heck I think Izuku will look at her now. I'm sorry, Katsuki, you made your own grave, so lie in it. After that, Izuku finishes catching his breath and says thank you to Pyra. He takes a really quick shower and sees he's got about an hour left. He grabs one of his new hero notebooks and flips inside where he started writing down his own quirk, including the notebook he had erasers information in. He then puts 2 wind swords in the bag because he asked his parents to get it for him since he needed it for training on their way back. He then packs some drinks and the food Pyra made for him and Izawa. He then walks to the door and gets his shoes on, since he knows he should be right on time. He then asks if Pyra's ready. She then answers yes, returning to the crystal, and as soon as it hits 10 o'clock, he opens the door to see Izawa standing there. And then he says to Izuku, "Man, you did not give me time to ring the doorbell." Izuku then tells him, says, "A good hero wastes no time, especially when saving lives is on the map." Izawa thought, okay, I just love this kid. He's straight to the point and doesn't waste time. And then he tells Izuku to follow him. They walk to a nearby gym that's near Izuku's place. Apparently the staff knows Izawa because they say, "Oh hey, you still need that room over there for most of the day, right, Izawa?" He just nods, saying, "Okay," and the employee says, "Don't worry, all the antivirus stuff is in the room, so go nuts." Then Izawa leads Izuku into the room and then tells him, "Okay, kid, now I want you to hit me as hard as you can with your fist." Izuku then nods and actually runs at Izawa, punching him as hard as he can. And it kind of shocks Izawa a bit because he does have some force behind it, which he really shouldn't even. She shouldn't have this kind of force behind it as a kid, it's only minor. He then starts taking a blow of fury from Izuku until he tells him to stop, as Izuku is coughing and catching his breath. Then Izawa asks him, "Have you been training before this?" Izuku answers yes, because after the doctor told me my quirk was dormant, I decided to get strong so I could awaken it, and so that I could one day control it. This also impresses Izawa that he kind of had that much foresight, because if his quirk didn't wake in the last minute, he needed to be ready just in case. Izawa says to himself that he chose probably the best possible student he could ever have, even admitting that when he gets into UA, he's going straight in his class with no exceptions, and depending on what happens, he might be the only one I pass that day. Izawa then says, "Okay, tell me your training regimen, Izuku." He then told Izawa, he nods, saying, "That's okay, but you have to keep doing it, and we'll increase it slowly, Izuku, with my permission." Then he answers, "Yes, Sensei." And after that, he then tells Izuku, "Since it's 11, we're going to train until 2 on your body and hand-to-hand combat exercise. Take a break to eat. Then you're going to start again at 3 to train your flames. And train with a sword, since that blade of yours is 1. And since I have to get you home by 7, we will end at 6. Okay, Izuku?" He nods, and then he starts training with Izawa. Literally, Izawa puts Izuku through hell. After 2 hours and nearly about to pass out, he sits down. Izawa's saying it's time to eat, and he's proud of him for backing up all the way to the end, basically. But before Izawa walks away, because he's going to go walk away to get something, Izuku says, "Wait," and he pulls out food and drink, and he says he has some there, enough for both of them. And sorry. And then Izawa says, "Okay," and he sits out. Now, as he starts eating, he realizes it's the most delicious food he has eaten. So basically, just like Izuku and his mom, he downs it all in 1 second, basically, and almost downs his entirety of the tea drink that Izuku gave him, just to keep himself from choking. With that, Izuku laughs, saying, "Yeah, that was my reaction the first time I ate it. So would you like to meet the cook, Izawa?" Then he gave him a look and said, "Okay." Izuku then said, "Pyra." Then she appears out of nowhere, freaking Izawa completely out, saying, "Okay, what's going on?" Izuku responds with, "Yeah, this is a person that cooked the food. Her name is Pyra. She's with my quirk. She's a sentient part of it. She's the blade." And at this point, Pyra then bows to introduce herself while saying hello. Izuku with Mr. While saying hello and saying to Izawa that, "I thank you for training Izuku to become stronger, and her name is Pyra, and I hope you continue to look after Izuku for many years to come." She offers her hand, and Izawa bows a little and then shakes it. And now, and then as Izawa thinks in his head, so his quirk gives him a hot woman. That kid doesn't know it now, but that's a bragging right later on. He chuckles to himself. He then says, "Okay, nice to meet you. I believe you're going to train to use the fire and a blade." Pyra then nods, saying yes. "Izuku, do you want to train now, or..." Then she turns to Izuku, and asks him if he wants to train now or in 30 minutes. Izuku saying no, it's fine. He wants to keep going since he's already done eating and drinking. Pyra then says it's alright. She then tells Izuku to come to her at the center of the room. She then places her hands underneath his, causing Izuku to blush really hard right now. Now, Izawa's still kind of sitting down, taking a bit of a break since he is tired himself. And he also wants to look at how they're going to do the training and how hard she's going to push him. Saying to himself also that he couldn't blame this kid that he's blushing. I mean, she is beautiful. And to him, she puts Midnight and Miss Joke to shame. So he smiles at that. Now we cut back with Pyra telling Izuku that we're now Link, as she's supplying with extra ether to help him. She wants him to imagine a flame, just a small one, erupting from your hands. That Izuku just closes his eyes and does what Pyra instructs. He opens his eyes to see a small hand in his hand, causing him to quickly jump up with joy while it's still on his hand, with Pyra quickly stopping Izuku, telling him to calm down, that remember, he still has fire in his hands and it will still burn him. Then Izuku then quickly stops, remembering all that, and apologizes to her. She says it's okay because after all, it's his first time and he got excited. Now, what she wants him to do is aim fire at a dummy they have set up in there so that he can test his flame. Then Izuku aims it and hitting the dummy dead center. Now, it nearly burned a hole through it. He causes him to give a smile. He says, okay, if that's a small one, can I see what I can do with a medium one? Pyra saying that's okay, but be careful. It's a lot stronger than a small one, and he needs to make sure he has plenty of ether when he does it. Izuku then nods, and he imagines a medium-sized fire. It forms in his hand, and then he raises up and shoots it out again. This time, somehow engulfing the whole dummy and burning it to ash. Zhao was shocked watching this, remembering that these things were designed to help kids with fireworks to slowly control their flames, and it was supposed to be fireproof to a point. Causing him to say to himself that it was insane that he had that kind of firepower already at that level when he's this young. He then gets up finally to say to Suki, you got 3 hours left, use them wisely. With that, he asks Pyra to teach him more about his blade since he can train at home to control his fire better, especially in that place, he says. She then nods. She then takes one of the wooden swords and starts training him harder, but probably even harder than Aizawa did, and even Aizawa was kind of pressed at her for doing that. So after Izuku was tired beyond belief and he sent Pyra back, they walked out, with Aizawa then walking him home. But before they left each other, he gave Izuku a detailed 5 months training regimen that he needed to follow without complaining. Izuku scanned over it. For 3 hours a day, he would do physical exercise from 5 in the morning to 8 in the morning. He'd then rest a little bit and go to school. When he leaves school, he would head to the gym and train with Zhao for 2 hours. And 2 hours his schedule was with Pyra, since he scribbled that in since he showed up. Then he had time in his schedule that was for him to rest and relax. Finally, on the day off, it just said that they'll do the exact same thing they did today. That is Izuku smiles, saying, I understand. Now, he pulls out the notebook that has Eraser's information in it with a pin. And it causes, and Aizawa, and asks Aizawa to sign it, causing Aizawa to smile and say, you didn't forget about that, huh, kid? Izuku saying, nope, and I'm ready for next 5 months, with Aizawa signing it and telling him you'll see him tomorrow. Okay, that's the end of part 1. I've already written most of part 2. I think all I gotta do is write a few more sentences and then I just have to edit and it'll be ready to go. I am kind of sorry it took me so long to record today, but to tell you the truth, one of my relatives is in the hospital and I'm going to be going down there pretty much until they're discharged to visit them, since after all I'm the only one that really seems to care about them, sadly. But I do that because I feel like it's the right thing to do, and that by sometime tomorrow, I will hopefully have all of part 2 edited, and I'm going to split up into 2 parts, and when I get back, I'll at least record part 1 of 2, and depending on how good that one does view-wise, if it does just as good as part 1's done so far, I would not mind immediately starting on that one. And I would like you guys to comment, subscribe, leave a like, and tell me if I'm doing a good job or not, and just to be honest with you, help me out, because I'd like to do this for a living, because I'm already really enjoying what I've done so far after getting over being sick. So I hope you guys have a wonderful night. This is The Real Guardian, signing off.